Let's see. Next up, we are going to be hearing from Erin McMahon. McMahon, sorry, my eyes are not great. Who is the new director of OEM. So I don't have prepared remarks because Steve had those, but anyway.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And thanks for inviting me to be here. It's really exciting oh, I can't move around. Sorry. Now I'm stuck. It's really exciting for the opportunity to come out here and meet with this team. You know, when a little bit about me, I retired from the military in January of 2023, where I served for the last 25 years, the last few years with the National Guard Bureau as a lawyer. And as a lawyer for the National Guard Bureau, the Deputy General Counsel, I directly advise General Dan Hokanson, who was at one time the TAG in the state of Oregon for the Oregon National Guard and is now the chief of the National Guard Bureau. And I can tell you, you know, context is everything. When you think about 2020, it was a hell of a year, right? And I know at the national level, we were reeling from a number of issues, from the pandemic to the marching, to the preparations for what was going to surely be a chaotic election, and then the fires. And I can tell you that the General Hokanson, coming from Oregon with family and talent, was very focused on what was going on here, which meant that I was very focused on what was going on here. Fortunately, unfortunately, we had a lot of experience with CAL FIRE and all the challenges that they had. And it allowed us to really think through at the national level, what sort of federal resources we could bring to bear, how could we be looking at this problem differently? And it allowed us to kind of spotlight and focus on how we could apply those resources when the fires broke out in Oregon. So I am new to the state. I did go to law school here in Portland. My husband grew up in Portland. And so, you know, even though I'm not, you know, naturally from Oregon, I definitely have my heart here, and am very excited about the opportunity to continue to support bringing sort of my federal background and experience, my experience building teams and reorganization into this community. Let's see here. What we've got for you today is sort of a look at, my team built together a slide of what were some of the lessons that we learned as an organization, as a state entity. But I can tell you that I'm not here to tell you what we learned so that you can do something differently. I'm not here to tell you how you can best support yourself. I really wanted to come down here and be in here in person to hear from you what we can do at the state level differently. I want to hear from you what we can do to best support you. What are the tools that you need now that you've had this experience to help you be better, to help us best support you? That's why I'm here. And I'm going to be here for the next 2 days. I'm here with my deputy, Patience, who many of you know. She's the rock star I keep in my back pocket, who obviously lived through all this. But we're here for the next 2 days to just meet you. And so I would love for you to come up and tell me a little bit more, because every conversation I have is a new piece of information that I can apply and I can pull out when I'm in a meeting that might make a difference, whether that's with funding or legislation or programs. I want you to know that I am somebody who will pick up the tool. I've been doing it for the last 26 years, and I'm happy to do that. And more importantly, I believe that the team at the state has a responsibility to best support our communities, our cities, our localities, our tribes. And so we've all been issued tools. Okay, so we're all going to be doing that. We're going to be grabbing those shovels and helping you going forward. So I don't have a lot of time, so I'm just going to kind of flip through some of the slides to tell you a bunch of things that I didn't know, but you probably already did. Okay, and then you can stop me and ask a question if you want, or just put it in your pocket for later. You know, obviously the wildfires, as I said, were, you know, massive, and the sweeping and the scale of it was something that we had never seen. I think when you look at those numbers, it's very striking, the magnitude of people that were involved, which is why you can see the need to initiate that emergency operations center at a very early stage. Let's see if I can get this right. What was fascinating to me was the turn, right? And the employment and support that we did get the attention of FEMA pretty early on to get those disaster declarations going. You know, having worked in natural disasters and working with FEMA as I had done for a number of years, I have seen this be a very slow process. And I will give credit to our Region 10 of really sort of trying to lean forward. From my perspective, up at the national level, this was a huge move. And I think that it played out in how fast they were able to get some of these resources down to the state. We initiated the State Recovery Action Plan, but what we learned pretty early on was that the plan was no good, right? So in the military, we have this saying that no plan survives first contact. You know, we had a plan that was, you know, for all intents and purposes, built by a very talented group of contract workforce that wasn't really informed by the professionals that were serving in the community. And, you know, planning is a tricky thing. It's easy to sort of send that out, but I will tell you that the value of a plan is not the plan. It's the getting to the plan, right? And it's the thinking through the plan, and it's the working with the partners to get you there. And we learned that kind of in a big way early on, that we were going to have to make some changes and some adjustments. As you can note there, all the SRFs were activated, as was already alluded to today. There was great support from our nonprofits and our other agencies that gave assistance. The plan itself was modified using this integrated strategic recovery plan, which one of the big issues that we found was that we just weren't really communicating, and there was overlapping of services, and it created a very disjointed approach, which is why they kind of revised it in motion. You know, that whole phrase of building the plane while it's flying, that's what they were doing. I took note of some of the comments that were brought just earlier. I feel like that comment about the terms of reference is really key. And I'd like to continue that conversation because I'm sure there are other terms that we've been misusing and not thinking through the approach. You know, at the federal level, that's the first thing we do when we build a plan is we think through the ramifications of those terms of reference. And we create that, and we all get on the same page as to what that means. And that allows us to be more productive in the development of that plan. So as we at the state level are working to revise and adjust some of these plans, it would be helpful as partners to think through that with you. One of the things on that slide is this data management. Boy, one of the biggest challenges I've already had, and by the way, I started on September 6th. And I always felt like the Department of Defense was using like the oldest systems known to man, right? And then I joined the Department of Emergency Management at the state. Our challenges with data management make us not very helpful to you. It's one of my top priorities is to help fix that. Just hearing from the speakers in this room, I know that you have the data that we need. And the reason why it's important for us to have the data is because we can translate that into action that can come down to the state level. So we need to improve our ability to receive your information so that we can best support you. It's inexcusable that we don't have a system that allows us to do that, and we're going to work on that. Okay, you already know this, right? FEMA funding isn't comprehensive. There's just still so many people, even after this disaster, who believe that the federal government should be doing more. FEMA should be providing more money. What they don't realize is that FEMA caps out, and it caps out pretty low. And even a full total disaster is just over 60,000, right? In assistance. It's remarkable. So we need to make sure that we're doing more to educate our communities about that. There was, after this disaster, some legislative effort to help improve and get more money out there. And all of you have alluded to the ability to provide more funding at the state level that doesn't rely on that federal support. And I know that that's something that's being reviewed. Survivors need wraparound services. You've all communicated that. It's, again, goes to that issue of what does recovery look like? What is disaster? What is a home? You know, all of these terms are very important. In our section, the focus on mitigation is huge. We didn't really have a separate section for it. We had a couple people that were doing it, but now we've expanded that section. We've actually expanded a lot of our individual sections to better improve the capability. And then the last note there, the training, making sure that we're all communicating, training, and applying. You know, once you build a plan, the next thing you got to do is break it, so that you can figure out where those gaps are, so that you can do better in the future. Right now, we're looking at trying to set up our ECC, our Emergency Operations Center that we have at the state. We got a new building well, it's not new building, but we're kind of reimagining it, bringing new capability into it. And I hope that if you're up in Salem, sometime starting in December, I think it's going to be open, that you come out there and you come take a look at it. You'll have a seat at the table. We have a lot of tables, we got a lot of seats, and we're hoping to improve that coordination and communication. But the first thing we're going to do when we open that is we're going to break it, because we want to see if it can do the things that we need it to do to enable us to be responsive. Okay, so a couple more slides here about some of the lessons and the issues that we learned. Some of the things that we were able to do as it relates to the public assistance, and this was alluded to as well, some of the cost share issues, some of the additional monies that we had received. And I will tell you, you may not appreciate that 100% coverage from FEMA for some of those instances is huge. I can tell you at the national level, it was very rare to get 100%. So that's some great negotiating and advocacy that was being done at the state level, because it is very unusual. I know it doesn't feel like a lot, but it is a big deal. The individual assistance, we talked about the case managers and providing that capability at the community level, how important those long-term recovery groups are. And then finally, I mentioned, we've got the federal support, and then also in there, I don't know why it's in the same line, but we've talked about the philanthropic organizations that are helping in that recovery work. So that's all I have for you to let you know. These are some of our lessons learned. But as I stated here in the beginning, Patience and I are here to get your individual lessons and your takeaways. So I would hope that you could spend some time with us and let us know what more we could be doing differently to best support you. Thank you.